The pitbull chosen globally, the grand champion CHILINDRINA, a 2010 DOY dog and bis GIS. After traveling more than most have done in the history of the fighting dog, we learned many things. We found out how difficult the trip is for dogs and how much this is a disadvantage for us when we compete. I really believe that winning consistently in the cutting-edge competition is difficult, but the travel time is even more difficult. Consistent success during this career is the biggest challenge for true dogmen. However, we also knew that most people only put dogs to fight in their area or in a very small radius. We traveled for more than 17 years from north to south, from east to west with 3 to 6 dogs, winning and losing in the best fight of our times. We continue to learn more and get stronger. Practice, trial and error were our biggest school. One day, when I was returning home after leaving 12 dogs on a weekend in Mexico, I thought, I want to take 1 or 2 dogs that would travel to all other places until they become great champion. We learned that most people were difficult to deal with, so traveling was always difficult. The logistics and careful planning of every detail were not only expensive, but also time-consuming. We trained Chilindrina while training other great dogs and raised more dogs, while moving and facing many challenges such as economy, changing laws, family growth, etc. I want to write a story that is just roses, nothing negative. However, I really believe that writing what is good, what is bad and what is ugly is better, because that's how it is. The sport has mainly bad people. Like it or not, that's my opinion. We made our own great champion, dogs with ROM title, and with PUR title, always raising our own dogs. Our creative program continues to grow and we focus on one thing, that is the success of our program. In the past we sold very small puppies and we regret that. In fact, we bought back many of them so we could give them some merit. We do not breed dogs to sell to anyone or for dog partnership. We do not care about the people who cross their dogs with ours, or the size of our name that can be recognized by other people. We only care about raising these dogs for and for the chosen. There were many calls, but only a few chosen. The cross that made this dog was first contemplated by me in 1997, when I bought my first really heavy Hollandsworth dog, still a puppy, and my first dog was heavy in the Honey Bunch line. It was a puppy. They are exactly the intersection of the Tombstone line with Bolio and Red Boy Jocko with Honey Bunch. At that time I knew that this would be my touch as a creator. I had bought dogs of almost all lineages, but these 2 selected puppies were special. I developed an eye to select puppies. This creation never happened, because we lost my puppy to Babasia very early in his life. He was a great dog and we miss him a lot. So, we planned crossings with other dogs from the Pit Stop family. We had bought about 24 dogs in Pit Stop kennels and after selecting our top, we ended up with only 4. We had planned to use these females with our dogs, heavy in the Hollingsworth line with Mayday. I sent Miss Mayday to Ecuador to be played on Mayday, and that was another step in my plans. Our dogs like Hugo Verdugo crossed with our dog Pit Stop Snooky, produced dogs as Great Champion Candy, that although we did not do this creation, the dog came from one of our planned creations. There are many dogs that came from our combos. Then we tried the crossing of the dog 357 Jr. and the female Saratoga, and yes, we did a great job. We made amazing dogs like the Whole Shot Once BIS winner, a top dog that won the BIS, in Ensenada, Mexico, in a show of 10 fights. From the same creation came the great champion Cerebel, Bon Bon. As we developed the program we noticed the real qualities of the incredible buck. The real original awesome buck champion. We won 2 dogs, twice winners and 2 champions. We received 2 dropouts and were avoided by many people. We took a DRK dog to the dreaded champion wrangler and lost a lot of hunting while screaming for more. The day Awesome Buck entered the box he was screaming to get in there, and when he lost he was still screaming to make his courtesy scratch. Champion Wrangler was also a monster and got a bizarre first blow that tore the jugular from Awesome Buck's neck. In just a few minutes, Awesome Buck lost a lot of blood. It's over and we attended around 13 minutes or so. The 5 referees gave Awesome Buck GIS in the cold country near the North Pole. At that time, a lot of noise was made by many haters who did not speak well of all the great achievements of Awesome Buck. We knew that we would have a journey where it would take determination, resistance, many sacrifices and a vision to remain firm in the task. We moved forward as always, and during these days, one of our friends and some chosen from the forest, met with John Doe and wanted to go ahead and make the investment to buy a puppy from DRK. And told him about the future planned creation. Mr. DRK said that this would be a great creation because he knew the story of Awesome Buck and Wrangler, and this family of dogs will also put many excellent qualities in their dogs. DRK was just a good and honest man. He didn't send a paid puppy, but 2 puppies for the price of 1. This is what true dogmas do when they see the future. The creation was made using DRK's thinker. A large litter came from this creation. Now we had 10 puppies, but 1 died. Some bitches were sent to my backyard, and as things were very hostile in my region, I entrusted some of them to some friends. One of them is Awesome Molly, once a winner, with a defeat proving Gameness, she who lost due to bad conditioning. One more was the great Grand Campi Chilindrina. That person he trusted was a solid Puerto Rican brother like Ivan El Boricua Loco. We keep combining dogs and doing all the great things we've always done. One day, when Chilindrina was in the first school, El Boricua took 2 male dogs that I had sent from a breeder in Florida and our Chilindrina at a young age to be seen for the first time. Although the males didn't work as expected, some guys on the block were happy about it and said, "Wow, are these the Awesome Buck dogs your friends sent you?" He said, "No, motherfuckers, but this bitch is, and everything she does will be better than these 2 motherfuckers." Well, Chilindrina was natural, she had never seen the ring, and at first glance, she was dying to get into it. 11 minutes passed and Chilindrina had just destroyed her opponent. I received the call and said to bring it so that we can make another winner. We don't need to see anything else. All it took was a test. I had just arrived from a concert in Mexico where I dealt with 8 dogs in one night and met a very honest man named Panadero, from the Santa Clara team. The man was real, and at that time he was the man to be beaten in Mexico. So I called him with Chile. We were going to Veracruz, Mexico, to Jiracho's house. The Mexican public has seen me in action before and loved my style in the ring, in addition to being a little excited about the show between our champion Big John against Fausto, a 2-time winning dog. Our champion Big John had just won, and our great champion Cerebel fought against an extra kilo dog, twice winner, and we won. Therefore, Mexicans knew that we take what we do very seriously. It was our country against Mexico. Well, the day of the trip was there and my few chosen ones couldn't come, so I should go alone. After a 16-hour day of work, I should drive to the airport. I missed my flight, so I drove about 9 hours to Monterrey, Mexico, and took a plane to Mexico City, then to Veracruz, with only 1 day of rest to go to the cabin. It was hard for our Chilindrina. More and more, as soon as I got off, I said, "Oh my God, Veracruz was hot, hot." I knew I was in trouble. Jiracho treated us well. The night of the show arrived and little by little many cars appeared. It was a car train going to the place, only to find out that many more were arriving. Everyone came to see the man in a New York cap being run over. Everyone wanted to bet, but I was out of money. I only had the money from the bet. Our spirit was high. I met some legal veterans from Mexico, and they were good people. Mr. Ciro and some others were there to watch the show of 3 fights. There were 2 fights and it was our turn. I was ready and with weight, so much to get in. While I was conditioning Chilindrina, I found out that she was like her father, wild and crazy when she saw another animal. I cover Chilindrina's face so that she stays calm. I can feel that we were synchronized. We were in the box with the face cover, because I felt it was almost time to face the dogs. I screamed very loudly that I felt in my chest very deep. I want to do what we love, Chilindrina and I, and we have been restricted by many stupid laws. So I screamed very clearly as I slowly turned my hand on his face and let go of my hand. If I still had words in mine, Chilindrina Libertad. And I screamed freedom. While I screamed freedom, she screamed loud and wild like a motorcycle at 14,000 RPM. The referee said let go and I let her fly like an arrow towards a target in her throat. I was on my knees, pico T, mata, mata, mata. 18 minutes of fighting and it's over. For the referees and veterans, BIS and GIS were for the chosen few and their little 15-kilogram La Chilindrina. By the way, the name came from La Chilindrina, who was the girlfriend of El Chavo del 8, on TV, in Latin America, and we grew up watching that show, and Chilindrina was a boring cry. We just love our Chilindrina. The show lasted about 18 minutes with Chilindrina taking incredible bites in her throat. She was awarded BIS and GIS. It quickly became the subject in all Latin countries. She rested and recovered at Jaracho's house. He took care of her and then sent her back to me in Panama. For years I heard everything about the dogmen mystics of the Balkans. Feared by everyone, respected by everyone. The Balkans had so many champions and great champions. We also saw some tapes and, wow, these guys were good. In our country it was said that those boys were war criminals and dangerous men. The area was known for having wars and that kind of thing. I wanted to go, never had a first-rate dog from our country been there before. I met an internet warrior who had contact with them and was ready. I knew the trip would be difficult, but I had already traveled thousands and thousands of kilometers and lost to important people. I felt I had experience and miles to face this new challenge. I wanted to take Cerebel, but the weight was for Chilindrina. I asked for the best opponent, and a real dogman, no cyber doggers, forum stick suckers, magazine collectors. I was told that you certainly asked for that. Well, we took steps to ensure that it was one of the most respected competitors. My ticket was shown to make sure they knew I was going. I was a discreet person for more than a decade and they might not even know about us. Some friends heard I was going and told me not to go. I was a little worried, so I called the dogman himself, and with his European accent he said, "I'm a real dog fighter." I felt like the most honest person talking and I felt comfortable. We traveled a long distance just to find the most honest people we could have agreed with, intelligent Gameness of Serbia. I camped for a few days and discovered honest, humble, hard-working and dedicated dogs, all crossing the area. The bets were against that no man from the New World would appear. Even the notorious clown captain of Thailand bet that I wouldn't be there. But we were there and had fun. Chilindrina did not do the trip well, never recovered and seemed a little sick, but she was still strong. The trip was difficult for her. I was treated very well. One of these days we went to see one of the shows of the grand champion Veka, who that day showed to have a very good mouth. The day was over and I was walking with Chilindrina in the dark, with my iPhone listening to Fort Minor, remember the name. It was 100% and not 10% of Will to Power. I was entering my area. The people in the village treated me very well. They were financially poor and wanted to support the local man. Even so, I felt bad because they were kind to me, so I said that everyone came for free. The other people paid to get in. It was us with Chile once again. I had a strong feeling that we were going to win. I always have this feeling, and I went into the box with a Mexican sombrero. I wanted to give them a memory that would never be forgotten if I won. So I gave a traditional hat to a man on my corner. Man, we understood each other somehow. While the Balkans were talking, all I understood was Mexican, Mexicali. I was alone with Faith and Chilindrina, thousands of kilometers away, in some important people. I was alone, but somehow I felt at home among friends. So I went in with Chile's face covered. I didn't understand what they were saying, so to be fair, we agreed that the referee should lower his hand as a sign of release. I kept my eyes fixed on him while I discovered Chilindrina's face. I did it again, this time we were synchronized too. I screamed freedom, the hand barely moved and we both let go. It was a quick fight. The fight was good, 30 minutes with the two bitches at the same pace for 20 minutes. Chilindrina went to her throat exerting strong pressure. I got on my knees saying, Pico T. Pico T. Chilindrina was special as always. Smart Kennels took the game and made a solid courtesy scratch. I asked for a courtesy, took the traditional Serbian hat and wore it as I turned around, while Chilindrina shouted. I screamed loud and clear among all the real dogmen. So, when I let go of Chilindrina and while she was screaming, I was wearing my Serbian hat and shouted loudly, Long live Serbia. I wanted to show respect for these honest men. Mr. Dan Dijon was the referee and gave me a gift that I have with me. Your keychain that says number 1. Myler was a real dogman and asked me if he could sew Chilindrina. He went to take care of the dog that had just conquered him. For me, this was a class for everyone in the sport. I trusted him and Sergeant, so he would take care of Chilindrina until I figured out how to bring her back. The money didn't yield anything, I lost money, but I had the pleasure of a lifetime and met good people while making world history on the game dog. We wanted to beat some close to us, so we looked for a solid competition. A friend from Peru found us a solid team with 2 winners of 2 fights, which matched the weight of champion Carmela Soprano and Chilindrina. I hooked them both. Then I'll tell you the story of the great Carmela, in my opinion one of my best ever, and one of the only ones, who won in 4 countries. We went to their backyard. Those guys from 187 Kennels were very nervous when they learned that they were going to a Latino who loves to travel. They had 2 two-time winning dogs, champion Nina. A quick note, Nina's owner contacted me before crossing those females to breed with Awesome Buck, but my $1,000 and 2 puppies were too much for him, so he crossed with a stallion from a Mr. Surprisingly, we were disputing with 2 dogs of that breed. How life ends. Skidder Rock would be the referee. He said, my man, I'm going to arbitrate, but my money is in the other bitch. I had no choice for a referee, because Thug City was on its way and had not yet arrived. He came in while we were doing the courtesy scratch. As he said later, I think after all this time that crazy bitch is still screaming. So it was like that, their 2-time winner should be a face biter, as Skid Rock said. Well, The same thing, screaming and going crazy, with a hard throat. Hey, the dog Yellow/Jackson took us with strong shots in the face. Skidder Rock was jumping, saying, I told you. I told you. I looked at him and said, at least give me a little respect, you're the referee. And that's not cool. Chilindrina was like an alligator biting, her jaws popping, while reaching her chest, then her belly. In just a few minutes she had bleeding from all that gypsy. It was over. Their dog wanted to jump the walls. They asked for a courtesy, but she left their hands looking for the walls. Chilindrina was awesome. Chilindrina quickly gained international respect after her performance and also for the super performances of her littermates such as the great Carmela Soprano and Copperhead, who also share the shotgun style to hit the throat and finish you off quickly, while screaming in your corner and during your scratches. A word to describe the awesome buck creation with Thinker was explosive dogs. Chilindrina was sitting quietly, just being a wild dog. Martin Kennels had just lost to Copperhead in Mexico City. He is a good sportsman who also saw Carmela kill 2 dogs on the same night in Morelia, Mexico. He knew how good these bitches were. However, he had a friend who loved to give his best and was a solid sportsman. His name was Trampas R.I.P. I've seen Irampas in several fights and he was a gentleman, cheerful, charismatic and playful, above all a nice guy. He was known to some as the Northern Boys or Reynosa Boys. At the time he had just joined the team of Joyero and a town, all formed what was known at the time as Blackrock's Kennels, which later separated as expected. Martin told me that these boys are quickly building a name for themselves and want a chance against Chilindrina. I was on a bad relationship with a town at that time, so he said, I can beat them up, but I don't want to see him around or not show up. Just as a later note, he and I solved our differences. It was supposed to be like gentlemen, 5 on each side in Reynosa, Mexico, one of the most dangerous cities in the world. A place infested with coyotes, traffickers, zetas and prostitution, a place where there is no value for human life. I knew it was a difficult situation to get in touch with people who knew me, my dogs, my livelihood, and still felt that they could catch me. They were brave or stupid, or maybe they wanted to screw me, I thought. Even so, Trampas was known to be a nice guy and Martin would also go there. I asked my old friend the old Grico because he is one of the dogs I respect the most. Chilindrina was ready for her training and she was wild. I had to reduce her training, because she got even wilder as she got older. She was loving and friendly, but she couldn't see any kind of animal because she would recover in minutes. This reminded me of a dragster car monster burning nitro while burning the tires. While I was working with her one day, I made her do the time machine, one of my private workouts, and man, she had everything. As she screamed, I was very excited and hurt her so much that she had to rest for a long time. I was a little worried about that. Even so, I had La Chilindrina in my hands. The day of the show arrived and I was going to travel, with my wife, my good friend El Che, from Argentina, and a scoundrel who was with us at the time. So there were 4 of us making the trip in 2 cars. We made all the necessary stops and Chili was feeling well. I feel like she wasn't even in her best shape this time. We arrived at the city where the show would take place. We had to go through some obstacles to get there. I met Trampas alone when I left Chile in a hotel. I wanted to see the place, but I masturbated from the beginning. The vacancy was somewhere else, more direction. It was getting dark and I just had to trust those guys, and know that anything bad could happen. It was totally dangerous, however, we are few, but bold. I went back and said, Let's hit the road. The only scoundrel who showed up spoke a lot of nonsense and was his way of speaking. Some of us said to him, "Man, these guys are bad people. Observe how you speak because it can be dangerous for all of us." It looked like he was drugged with the medicines, but we kept walking. We drove down the normal road just to turn on a dirt road. The way there was dark, with no street lights, and it was a good 15 minutes in the middle of nowhere. We saw a light right in front and it was a small ranch. There should be about 25 people. I was crazy. We hadn't agreed with that. Horns pretended to be Martin, Martin pretended to be Horns, but I knew that some people there were known as heavyweights in other businesses not related to dogs. While I was talking to Trompas about the money lost for exceeding the number of people, one of the bosses went in the middle to talk. I said, "My guy, I'm a dogman, I came to take care of my dog and I have a contract with this man. He and I are the only ones we need to talk to." He was respectful and let us take care of our dogs. I said that no one from outside the ring will talk, because I always thought it was stupid to have people talking or screaming outside the ring, when they don't participate in the show. They are lucky to see us doing what we do and should feel honored and respectful. The show was about to start. Both females were overweight, it was obvious that everyone was in this and against us. Chilindrina was screaming in her corner when the show started. The opponent China was from some dog from the Carver line with dead serious combo. The pace was fast as Chilindrina dug deep into her throat. China gave blows on the shoulder, Chilindrina went to the rear and China in the face. Chilindrina was breaking China and fast. In the middle of the match, a fight began between Reynosa's rude team and the low life that came along with us. We had told him to keep this quiet. A lesson learned, we won't be near you. The mules had jumped on him. I said, "I'm winning and I'm going to kill China in the area, so I'm going to stay out of this external action." The weapons were drawn, the owner of the place and his children had an AK-47, they were ready to explode, but he threw it and started playing around. I mean, they were going to smoke that guy, but he was saved by the respect those guys had for us, the dogmen. The referee was very nervous and I was worried about my friends and especially about my girlfriend. While Chilindrina continued doing her things, the late Trompas decided to attend. China paid a very deep game scratch card and, while holding Chilindrina in the corner, I asked my girl to make the complimentary scratch card. She entered the box and had the indescribable pleasure of having one of the greatest of all time screaming and acting wildly. It was difficult to see if Chilindrina touched the carpet when shooting into the corner of China. China didn't get this afterwards, they answered too late, about 30 minutes or more. We knew we were in no man's land. Horns showed up and he was a nice guy. Joyero came to congratulate us and said, "Hey, sir. I have a dog twice winner of your blood." I said, "No, you don't." However, he was right, he had what would be the great champion candy. In fact, it came from two of my dogs and one of my planned creations that I sold to John G many years ago, who later changed his mind and instead of making dogs decided to sell them. I'm happy that these guys managed to make her a great champion. We still had to go home with Chilindrina and she was doing very well, and still in search of China. I was later informed that Trompas was possibly killed by his business partners. Mexico is a difficult place to be in dogs. The cartels were taking control of the sport and being present at the conventions. Later, they missed some conventions and even kidnapped a dogman, forcing his wife to pay a ransom. At that other convention, dogmen were bitten and some cars were stolen. Mexico quickly became a difficult place to take care of dogs. The idiots who made forums on the network, posted places, and gave a lot of information in Mexico, made everything difficult. Those internet kennels caused a lot of damage, along with the guys who presented the sport to the gangsters. All for a little bit of money. The cancer of sport, the cyber doggers and the sofaqueros, cowards, were making their contribution to the end of a good country to be in dogs, Mexico. I tell all of you to stop these forums. The opinion of cyber doggers is totally useless. Men who take care of dogs don't have time to stay in forums talking nonsense. El Lantero Mugroso left its negative mark on the sport in Mexico. After our show we informed how Chilindrina went to Trampas like everyone who was with him. All the members of his team said it was him alone, not them. Somehow, there are no friends after death. I keep telling everyone that 99% of people are the same. It's amazing how stories change sometimes. In the past, we lost fairly to big dogs and good people, and we are proud to lose hunting most of the time. However, the new generations see the loss as something very bad. So, in honor of Trampas, my man, you were the one who had the courage to enter Chilindrina and had the honor of being there as a dogman. Rest in peace, old dogman. Chilindrina was having fun being a domestic dog. She was in South America just enjoying the hot weather, but while waiting for the Grand Championship, we realized that she was sick. This was a low blow for us, because we had lost our great champion Serbia, a true monster of incredible performance, due to an infection in the uterus. A high price here, because we believed that Chilindrina was also sick with pyometra. Females need to be reproduced at some point, and we, as true dogmen, were just campaigning. We tried everything we knew and could, and before losing her I decided to do the right thing for our great warrior. We had to remove her uterus. This meant that there were no Chilindrina puppies. We still have some sisters who were equally good in every way, and we were going to repeat the creation, but we would love to have her puppies. Now it was done, and along with that was in my mind our chance to have another world-class grand champion. We were hit by this, but we are ruthless and we have resistance. We are the chosen ones, damn it, phew. We studied the effects of sterilizing a dog, and some indicated that she would become slower, fatter and lazy, losing her impetuousness and madness. The surgery was done as soon as possible, because she was getting very sick. She looked exhausted and sad. We knew we wouldn't have her puppies, but she was our friend and we loved seeing her live a happy life. As soon as she fully recovered, she went to the chain. And man, every time I went to the site of the chain she went wild, as if she didn't know about her surgery. Chilindrina was on. The monster was still full of fire and desire. She wasn't 100%, I would say only 70%, but shit, that was enough to crush anyone on the planet. While the chosen few talked about it, we decided that she would become a great champion. We could have done like many great low-class champions, what I call great champions, those who go to a dog once losers, or to first time out, or all those maneuvers they do. How I was hired to go to Mexico City, and as an honorable man, the Muslim brothers, Mr. Jero. I wanted to put Che on Jero, and I wanted to put Chilindrina on the same card. I talked to the organizer, the always complicated Enrique Magana. I knew it was muddy water for him, because he tried to screw us many times and lost every time. He said, I have something special for you. I said, I'm not going there to make money for you. I don't want an easy show for an idiot from Mexico City. We want to win or lose in the top competition. I want the best I can. He said that if you can increase the weight a little, I have a jewel for you, that is, if you are brave. He said that I have VR arriving with a champion who killed twice and on the third broke a leg in 7 different places. A killer with a hard mouth. I said I want him, with that champion. However, I don't trust you at all, so $1,000 will be bet between you and me, if he doesn't show up with that dog and I want him to take care of it. I don't mind losing to Mr. VR. I respect him and it would be an honor. I know he's trying to educate a cyber dogger, so I want him to stay with him. No substitutions, no tricks or no attendance and I will receive $1,000 from you. I trained Chilindrina as usual and she was ready. We went to Mexico City. The first team to leave this part of South America and win, and even more, be grand champion. Our team was not a Spider-Man team, nor a forum team, it was the truth. We had 3 at that convention, and we were the ones who traveled more and were going to enter all the winners. The first show was a gift from us, because we were using a substitute dog to make a Magana and Tex-Mex maneuver. We forgave them for the overweight fine, and we still made the dog. We took it without any damage, but we knew that the difference in size and weight would count later. Their Timmy let us get where we wanted, even so, we didn't have the punch, so we answered. Magana later gave them the BIS as a gift, screwing us up and even more VR, which should get GIS. Lesson learned and enough has been said about negative people, so let's go for better things. We won then with Che, in a 1XW and as always we were in the throat. We were all ready for the show that everyone came to see. Mr. VR and your CH Troya. No one knew about CH Chilindrina's presence there. Only a few friends came to take pictures with the global warrior. As I said, the whole convention was a trick, but we were in Mexico City and in the place of Magana, among all. Choosing an honest referee was difficult, and Magana wanted to put his friends or himself as a referee, and I said no way. I said no. I selected an honest and active dogman, Mr. Raul Canil's DF. While they were washing the dogs, I heard VR complain about the sponge in Mexico City's mouth. I forgot they did it in Mexico City. I told the panadero over the wall, leave the VR alone, everything is fine. Now VR had as a friend a growing cyberdoggers of the old TXT crowd, the guys who stole our whole shot 1XWBS, and said she died by accident. Your son was washing our dog. I really didn't like that guy. He was an active member of the Mexico Garbage Forum. A supporting friend of the silly mafia of South America, which we crushed with CH Carmela Soprano. I also hate cyber doggers and he was an active cyber dogger on the Mexican Garbage Forum. He was washing my dog very hard, so I gave him a kind warning. As he wanted to dry my dog I said not to dry it, I don't need that. He urged that he wanted to dry and put the towel on my dog. I let him use everything he wanted to wash, I don't have to make him touch my dog right now. He touched my dog and I showed him and told him. My man, post this on that forum where you live, fuck along the way. I knew he was a cross-hater of cyber dogger who just received a lesson as a souvenir of the chosen few. Entering the square, I covered Chilindrina's eyes and we did it once again. Grita Liberté Awea. I forgot they did it in Mexico City. I told the panadero over the wall, leave the VR alone, everything is fine. Now VR had as a friend a growing cyberdoggers of the old TXT crowd, the guys who stole our whole shot 1XWBS, and said she died by accident. Your son was washing our dog. I really didn't like that guy. He was an active member of the Mexico Garbage Forum. A supporting friend of the silly mafia of South America, which we crushed with CH Carmela Soprano. I also hate cyber doggers, and he was an active cyber dogger on the Mexican garbage forum. He was washing my dog very hard, so I gave him a kind warning. As he wanted to dry my dog, I said not to dry it, I don't need that. He urged that he wanted to dry and put the towel on my dog. I let him use everything he wanted to wash, I don't have to make him touch my dog right now. He touched my dog and I showed him and told him. My guy posted this in that forum where you live, fuck along the way. I knew he was a cross-hater of cyber dogger who just received a lesson as a souvenir of the chosen few. Entering the square, I covered Chilindrina's eyes and we did it once again. Grita. Liberté awaya. The show was won, in 5 minutes. Chilindrina had a bullet hole in the middle of her eyes, which looked like an open tap. I looked at the clock on the wall and said that the shit looks bad so soon. The show was intense, with Troya standing on top of her face all the time and Chilindrina digging in her armpit and chest. At 10 minutes, Troya grabbed his chin. VR was happy and Chilindrina rolled on the floor after the bite and didn't let Troya get a lever to shake it and break it. She was very intelligent. She was very intelligent. At 1:40 p.m. Chilindrina was screaming, it reminded me of her father in Chalzam in the same weight for more than 28 minutes. VR was happy, I was happy, and when she let go, she became faster, more cruel and a super hard punisher. You could see the holes in her face, and it was hard to see her eyes, but with Troya holding her face she had her on her back, shaking strongly and walking with her in her mouth while Troya was wrapped in a ball. VR asked me, can we scratch? I said, you answer or we'll kill her in the box. I looked at the clock and said reaching the 2-hour mark with this great bitch from Chile. I looked up and you could drop a pin, all those guys had a face as if they had seen a ghost. A drunk man kept talking nonsense while Panadero said, brother, you got her. I knew I had some of the great Mexicans by my side. Panadero was one of the men I respected in Mexico for being a brave man. Chilindrina finally had people on her side. VR, a living legend that I respect a lot, said, can I scratch to continue? I said, no, you answer or we stay here. He then bought a great dog in Troya. He asked for a courtesy and I had the honor of doing it for him. His gypsy was a deep game. I asked him for my scratch and he said yes. I looked at everyone while holding Chilindrina with my left hand. She was screaming loudly as she did in the first scratch. I screamed with the deepest passion. I saw everyone's face at the top of the walls of the well. I was thrilled and honored. I knew this was something special. I felt like the world was mine. I cried loudly and passionately, with one hand on my ear as if she didn't speak loudly. Enough, no te oigu. Chilindrina, I don't hear you Chilindrina. I can't hear you Chilindrina, I can't hear you, and I let her fly one last time. She flew like a rocket. VR was a real dog. We shook hands and it was a story. Troya was an exceptional animal. Later, the next day, Mr. VR told me that in his 36 years in the sport he only lost 4 times with women, and he never expected her to lose. He said you had a very good dog. The astful Enrique Magana deceived us once again. The GIS would be, by far, for Troya and the BIS for Chilindrina. No other show was so good. However, he wanted to make Spain happy, after trying to screw them also with the promise to pay them for their airline tickets. Troya unfortunately passed away the next day or later, and Chilindrina fought for more than a month and mellow to survive. She's very much alive. She was then honored and had a belt put on by Mr. Mayday at a world-class convention. The belt said, "The Great Chilean Global Champion." The people there could see the faceless dog screaming to get to the chickens and everything that moved. They were taking pictures and admiring her undisputed spirit. She always felt like the owner of the world. Today, she is retired as the queen of the backyard. She eats minion steak for dinner. It's spoiled anyway. Thank you to all the people along the way. To the chosen, John Doe, the man of the forest, Ivan El Boricua Loco, my wife, my junior, the black cowboy, and all the good friends that through Chilindrina we made friends around the world. She is a true grand champion who raised the level of how to do this as a Class A bulldog. My advice to people is to close all internet forums. If you don't succeed in winning, you can't generate success. That's simple. Anyone else who tells you funny stories and their funny reproduction numbers is all bullshit. Procreating to see what comes out is for losers. Creating and asking in a forum to see what others think is also for losers. You can't trust anyone's pedigree, except those you create. I hope you grow and get better, and I hope the best for you. The few chosen, the few, but daring. Here is Babilla.